Welcome to Boiler Wild. My name is Eric Johnson, and this is episode 8 of the Boiler Wild podcast. On this podcast, I talk about boiler industry topics as well as personal development. I believe everybody has areas that they need to improve personally. Some areas that I want to improve are public speaking. That's a big one. That's a big one for most people. But Boiler Wild, you may be wondering what the name means. It's kind of off the hook name. WILD is an acronym I came up with. WILD stands for work hard, invest in yourself, lead others, and develop yourself into a person of excellence. And on this podcast, I will talk about technical boiler stuff, and I will also talk about other things that I think affect a career in the boiler industry. They're going to affect a career in any industry, but I only have experience with working around HVAC and boilers, so that's where I try to keep the topics to. I just have a couple thoughts, a couple random thoughts. It's been a couple days since I've recorded a podcast. I was on a trip, and I thought I could record during the days I thought I would have time. I was able to record one in a hotel room, but then the next 2 days, my schedule was busy from 6:30 a.m. and then I would get back. Like the first day I got back to the hotel at 11 p.m. and the second day I got back at 12:30 a.m. And let me tell you, the first day when I got back at 11, I thought about recording a podcast. I had it kind of planned out and everything, and I just didn't have the energy. And on this podcast, I don't want to record a podcast that just is me just mailing it in. I want to show up and do my best, even though my best for a podcast isn't much these days. But to my 10 listeners, I try to care to be better and to put out a product that is worth listening to. So that's why I haven't uploaded it in a couple days, but here we are. It is Monday, start of the week, July 14th, and we are, if you're listening to this, it's going to be July 15th, but we are cooking. We are halfway through summer, and it's going to be boiler season before we know it, at least heating season. If you're into the process boilers, those don't stop. They don't know temperature. They don't know weather. It's all on the manufacturing schedule. Just a gripe I have. I don't know if you guys are on LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, I believe you should be. LinkedIn is a social media platform that, while it is business oriented, I think it's kind of loosened its reins. 10 years ago, LinkedIn was all about getting a job and a resume. Now LinkedIn is more like a professional Facebook kind of. I find it very valuable. I've connected with a lot of valuable people on there and made connections and conversations that I would have never done before. And I try to post consistently on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, find me, Eric Johnson. You'll be able to find me. I got a couple thousand followers. Not that that's a lot, but I'll pop up. Eric Johnson, Boiler, I'll pop up. But LinkedIn recently changed the algorithm. I don't know what's going on, but approximately 3 or 4 weeks ago, I had always read, people were complaining since like January or something about an algorithm change. I hadn't seen anything change really. It was kind of normal. Not that I'm super in tune with posting and optimizing on LinkedIn. I try to post every day, but I post my thoughts. I'm not always optimizing like all the LinkedIn bros. And then about 3 or 4 weeks ago on a Sunday, LinkedIn literally like turned me off. Like I stopped receiving notifications. All my old posts before that date stopped getting notifications, stopped getting interactions. My impressions just tanked. Profile views tanked. and my followers tanked. And since that day, I think I've gotten like 10 new followers. My impressions is down like 80%. And I went about a week having posts that just way, way underperformed. It seems to be coming around now that I'm 3 or 4 weeks out of that. But man, I don't know what LinkedIn is doing, but it seemed to be halfway decent before that time, whatever happened. And then whatever they changed that made my profile basically disappear on the algorithm. I don't know what they did, but they should go back. So if you are getting into LinkedIn or you're not posting consistently, you don't have a profile picture, don't be discouraged that you're not getting any traction. One, if you're not posting consistently, you won't get any traction. But two, the algorithm on LinkedIn right now seems to be pretty messed up. I don't know what LinkedIn is doing. They're recommending games to me all the time. I don't know who at LinkedIn thought the people using the platform were missing games. That seems to be a product market fit. LinkedIn, which is owned by Microsoft, doesn't know their users, and maybe that they're trying to get people to stay on the platform longer to show them more ads, which equals more revenue. But like serious LinkedIn users, like I don't know anybody that is playing games on LinkedIn. They're bringing games. I don't know. It seems like they were trying to reproduce, I think it's Wordle, or yeah, where you guess a 5-letter word each day. It seems like they were trying to produce that, and that was super popular for a while. I think that's still going on. I never played that, but I know some people who played it, and it's total failure. Nobody wants to play games, and then the algorithm's all messed up. But besides all that, I keep posting on LinkedIn, and I think you should too. One, get a profile picture. Don't be one of those people that don't have a profile picture. I didn't have a profile picture for the longest time until I started to get serious on LinkedIn. I just had kind of made it my profile. But if you're going to go on LinkedIn and scroll, get a profile picture, get connections with people who you work with or people in the industry. You don't have to know them. The days of getting connections of people that you've met and networked with, that's old LinkedIn. As long as you are in the same industry, in this case, boilers. If somebody's in process, burners, boilers, water treatment, anything encompassing that, I would send a connection request to them. That's kind of how I've gotten enough followers and connections that's doing that. I don't wait to meet people. If I waited to meet people, it would take forever, and that's not the goal of LinkedIn right now. It's also not the goal to just get random connections. You don't want a feed that is just full of just random people that you don't care about what they post. And I think it's only like it's less than 10% of LinkedIn users actually post. So if you're not posting, then a lot of your connections aren't even posting either. But it's just a great tool that I found for visibility, to put thoughts out there, to hear some feedback from people who you may normally not talk to. I've talked to people on the phone who have DM'd me that I would have never met and that I have never met to this day. But some people I've met, I've talked to on LinkedIn and then met at like the AHR Expo, and that's been great. But it's a tool. As anything, you can use it for good or for bad. And if you don't use LinkedIn, if you randomly get on once a month, you're not going to get anything out of it. But if you spend 4 hours a day on it, you're probably going to see declining returns on that as well. Post your thoughts. Don't feel like you have to have something elaborate to post. Don't feel like you have to have a sweet picture. The best things right now that are working for me are funny industry related memes or something that's broken or like messed up or like blatantly wrong. People love to comment how bad something is or a fix for something. And if you post something like a safety valve with a discharge line that's reduced, people will comment how it's wrong and all this stuff like that you didn't know it was wrong. But my most popular post on LinkedIn, not that it matters about popularity, but was just a meme about guys going on date night with their wives but showing them boiler pictures. LinkedIn is not about connecting with people or notifications or impressions. None of that matters. There are people behind all the profiles. Well, hopefully, that I know of. There are people behind profiles that I have connected with. I'm not if you get on the AI LinkedIn bro side of LinkedIn, there are a lot of bots, but all the people I've connected with, burner, boiler industry, water treatment industry, they're all people. They all have professional careers. A lot of them are way more knowledgeable than me, and I have something to learn from them. And I get on LinkedIn almost every day, and I learn something. And people will post news articles and whatnot, and I find it a very valuable resource that you can kind of tailor to like what you want to see by the people you connect with and follow. And I would say that I've been doing or have been getting on LinkedIn consistently for the last 2 years, and I feel like I've gotten a lot out of it. So this would be my encouragement to you. If you have not already, get a LinkedIn profile, get a picture. There's nothing worse than not having a picture. Put some details in there. You don't have to put all your contact information and all that stuff, but put some details in there. Write a little blurb about you in the about section, and kind of think of LinkedIn as a professional resume. And now you'll say, oh, well, I'm not getting a new job or I don't plan to change jobs. Why do I need a resume? It's more of a personal brand. A resume, a professional resume on LinkedIn is more of a personal brand. So if you go to a site and work somewhere and you have mutual connections with your customer site contact, they may look you up on LinkedIn. And if your LinkedIn makes you look like a scrub, they're not going to have super positive things to think about you. They may not have negative things, but if they look you up on LinkedIn and you look legit, now that just builds you up personally more as a person. And like I said, LinkedIn is not, while I guess it could be still used for getting a new job, that's not the primary use of LinkedIn these days. Don't think of LinkedIn as a recruiter or I need to make a profile to get a new job thing. There are recruiters on there. If you consistently post and connect with a lot of people and get some followers, maybe like more than 500 followers, you will probably get reached out to by recruiters or people from other companies, maybe competitors looking to hire you. People are always searching for talent, and that could lead to good opportunities. Right now, I am working for myself. I am the CEO and founder of Boilearn, a boiler training competency provider that I started approximately 2 years ago. And I have been contacted by a couple recruiters, and they're always headhunting, but I'm not interested in that right now. So you just politely decline them and you move on. But the positives have outweighed the negatives. I highly recommend it. Get on LinkedIn and start posting. Post a cool picture. Like I said, it doesn't have to be elaborate. You don't have to write a book. just write a couple sentences. It is more important to post consistently than it is to come up with the perfect post, because if you only post once a month, LinkedIn will probably not recommend your post to anybody. But with this new algorithm, I don't know what's going on. My impressions are down. Everybody's impressions seem to be down, but you got to just keep going. And like I said, LinkedIn isn't about metrics. It's not about impressions and engagement and followers. It's about connecting with real people. And I get a ton of value from that. So anyways, today's topic is something that I think everybody knows about if you're in the boiler industry or any mechanical trades industry, but I don't see a lot of people talking about it specifically. I see a lot of people talking about related areas specifically and how important they are, but this one seems to not be talked about for some reason. And when I say it, you'll be like, well, duh, I've heard of that. I do that. But more specifically, I don't think people realize how much this affects you. And we're going to talk about hearing protection and why wearing hearing protection can make you think clearer. So when I was in the service industry, when I used to service boilers, I serviced boilers before my current position right now, and I would have disposable foam earplugs, and I would always have a set on me when I'm getting out of my service truck. It is safety glasses, my main tool bag, which would have a set of like cut level 1 gloves in it, and earplugs. If I knew it was not a noisy environment, I would just put them in my shirt pocket. I would have like shirt uniforms, put them in my shirt pocket so that I would have it if I needed it and when I needed it. So I would have my 3 main forms of PPE, and obviously, hard hat if I needed that, but safety glasses, gloves, earplugs. And I think a lot of people will, let me rephrase that. A lot of people are lazy when it comes to hearing protection. If you go into a boiler room and, it's less than 85 decibels, if you're not aware, there's OSHA sets standards, and I'm sure other people do, but I think it's OSHA that's the main one in the United States that sets standards for how long you can be in an environment in the decibel level before you start getting hearing damage. And you may walk into a boiler room, it not be loud, but then you are doing stuff and then you operate a handheld grinder or something, and then that's gonna be over 85 decibels. But you're not gonna stop what you're doing, put down the grinder, walk, maybe 2 to 5 minutes out to your truck, grab some hearing protection, walk back in, pick up your grinder, and make that cut, which would take you less than 1 minute. You're just going to make the cut and go on with your day, not thinking that you're damaging your hearing. And while it may have a zero effect on your hearing at that time, thousands and thousands of those incidents over decades will slowly damage your hearing. And that's how you end up with people who are 60 or even in their 50s who can't hear very well. They can't hear in loud, echoey environments. And it's the low industrial noise of the boiler rooms that can take out the low end frequencies of your hearing. There's all kinds of studies on this. If you're not already aware of hearing protection and its importance, talk to an old school boiler technician who's been around for 30 or 40 years, and they will probably be hard of hearing. Back when they started, hearing protection really wasn't a thing that people used consistently. You need to use it consistently, always have it on you. Get something that fits your ears, know how to use it. If you want to be a step above, you should get a hearing test, and it's essentially they can document your baseline of what your hearing levels are, and then you can get tests after that, maybe a year later or 5 years later, and they will see the decline of your hearing. Your hearing will probably slowly decline as you get older, as it does with most people. But if you're in the mechanical trades like boiler, your hearing can rapidly decline as you get older due to loud environments. Anything over 85 decibels can damage your hearing if you're around it. I don't know what the level versus time period is. So OSHA will say like anything 85 decibels that you're exposed to more than like 2 hours will cause long-term permanent damage or something like that. But that's the minimums, and you would be surprised how quiet 85 decibels is. While it is like loud, like a normal conversation is, I think, 40 or 50 decibels. Like it doesn't take much to get to 85 decibels, especially in a boiler room. However, I want to talk about an opposite side of this is I would always have my hearing protection on me. And one, I wanted to protect my hearing. But two, I found it helps me troubleshoot better. And you're like, man, how does hearing protection help you troubleshoot better? And essentially, it helps me think better. So I would use disposable 32 decibel reducing earplugs, and I would always have them on me, and I would almost always wear them in my ears, whether they were just kind of slightly pushed into my ears a little bit. They were the foam plugs pushed into my ears a little bit. If it was a quieter environment, or if it was really loud, I would roll them correctly and get them far in my ear canal, and then I would have the full 32 decibel reduction. But I would always have them on me, and I would most often wear them. If the environment was very loud, I would also wear 32 decibel reduction over the earmuffs on top of it. And if you're not aware, hearing protection doesn't double. So if you wear 32 decibel plugs in your ears and then wear over the ear muffs, you don't get 64 decibels of reduction. That's not how that works. I'm sure there's some formula for that, but they don't test the plugs and the over the ear together, but they do help in environments. There are some of the rental trailers I've been in, when you have 1,000 horsepower boiler that is firing in a rental trailer, it's so loud you can't even hear yourself think. That is when I would wear double ear protection. Also, a problem with over the ear protection is one, it almost never gives you the rated decibel reduction. So a lot of people will get like the 20 to 25 decibel reduction, but then they'll wear safety glasses that have a thick side to them. I forget what that's called on the glasses. The part on the glasses that go over your temple and over your ears, and that will break the seal around your ear on the foam, and now you have a leak and you're not getting the full reduction. So if you only wear over the ear earmuffs, you're probably not getting the type of protection you need from your hearing protection. Also, if you have like thicker hair or like a beard, that can disturb the foam seal of the over the ear earmuff. That also changes the sealing of it, and the ones that are hard hat mounted versus the ones that are just the headphone mount, more like that just go directly on your head. Hard hat mounted ones normally have a less decibel rating. So I would always prefer disposable. Boiler rooms are dirty. Instead of like washing rubber earplugs and constantly reusing earplugs, I would always like disposable ones. You can put them in your ear. At the end of the day, you throw them away and you're done. If they get dirty, you can throw them away, get new ones. I would have a full box in my truck at all times so that I would always have plenty. A lot of customer sites had their own, but I would like the 32 decibel ones so that I knew I was reducing the noise in the environment as much as possible. And I would say my hearing today is still pretty sharp. I haven't gotten a hearing test in a long time, but I do not notice any difficulty in hearing soft noises. I can hear running water through pipes when it's just a little bit of water. Like, I'm still pretty sharp with my hearing. Now I'm still very young, but I would say I did a good enough job to protect my hearing as I was in the boiler room. But the opposite side of that is, like I said, I could think better when I was wearing hearing protection. And what this goes into is, have you ever been driving somewhere and you are driving to a party and you are looking for an address and you are listening to music and you turn down the music as you are looking for an address, or you are driving in a rainstorm or a snowstorm and you turn down your music to concentrate better or to like drive better? Have you ever like wondered why you do that? So I did a small amount of research, not an expert, but I did a small round of research, and essentially our brains are receiving signals from all of our senses constantly. Our brains are constantly processing information. However, there's a limit to how much information our brains can process at one time, and then our brains cannot truly multitask. It is just switching between tasks very, very fast. When you turn down your music when you're driving, you are reducing the audible inputs that your brain is processing, even though you may not be like listening to the lyrics of a song or something. If you turn down the volume, your brain is now not processing all that audible input, and now it can focus on other senses such as your sight, so that you are looking for a address, or you can concentrate better on a road that is slippery from snow, and you now have the ability of your brain to make better decisions for the inputs that is receiving. Now, relating this over to the boiler room, I found that when I was in a boiler room, I could think better when I had earplugs in. And I was a big believer of being the same almost every day. So I would have the same gloves, the same eye protection, the same ear protection, the same uniform, the same boots. I would feel the same. Have you ever like gotten a new pair of boots and then like fell off? While they may feel like your old ones, they may have been worn down, but they feel like home. You put them on, your foot sits in them correctly, and the new ones just haven't broken in, and you feel off. And you notice that during the day. The same thing with like what you wear. I would always wear, we had company supplied uniforms, but I would always wear the the, the correct pants, a t-shirt, and the correct overshirt. It was long sleeve, and it just made me feel the same every time. I would do the same thing with hearing protection. I would wear the hearing protection, whether it was either just gently placed in my ear or all the way in my ear canal, but it would almost mute my environment around me so that I could think better. And it's kind of weird how I'm going to describe it. I essentially am trying to limit all the inputs that don't matter. So I feel the same. There's nothing on my clothes. My clothes fit well, and I would bring in lights, a variety of lights, bring in different lights so that I could see correctly. So we're taking away any sight issues or frustration, and then, bring in some water, try to take away some heat and frustration. But I noticed with boiler rooms with VFDs on pumps that a VFD noise and the pump turning at 30, 40 hertz or whatever, that noise, while it wasn't loud as most people would think, that noise would almost drive me wild listening to it, and it would distract me. And if I could drown that out with hearing protection, I could think better. In the same way, a very loud environment, you get so much audible input, I found, in a very loud boiler room that it is very hard to concentrate when all that input is coming in. And I would wear earplugs. While that would protect my hearing, it would also help me to remove myself from the environment and kind of just be in my own thoughts and mind. And a lot of safety people will say, oh, well, now you can't hear your environment. A boiler room is loud enough that you can still hear what is going on, even if you're wearing 32 decibel reduction earplugs. My hearing was good enough that I never felt like I couldn't hear anything that I needed to hear. It wasn't like I was being unsafe. You still hear stuff when you're wearing hearing protection. And that removal of the environment, I've now learned, is I am reducing the audible sensory that is traveling into my ears that my brain is processing. So now I can focus visually on the task at hand, which is normally troubleshooting a problem. So tracing pipes or looking at electrical that's been changed 30 times, then there's no diagram, and going through sequence operations and trying to figure out what is moving that shouldn't be moving or what is not moving that should be moving. That's what I normally would go off of. That'll be a different topic for another day. It helped me to focus on those tasks. And I found anytime I would be caught without earplugs in a loud environment, it would almost seem overwhelming to me. And my hearing is pretty good, and I could almost feel my hearing being damaged. And while it's over 85 decibels, and OSHA would tell you, yes, it's being damaged, I would see people or see operators wearing no hearing protection. And, I'm like, well, your hearing's being damaged. But the ability to think this, it's obviously scientifically based, and it's the same concept of why you turn down the radio when you're looking for an address or driving through a snowstorm. But I just don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about this as wearing hearing protection to think better. And if you've never experienced it, I probably sound crazy, but I'm telling you, I would wear hearing protection almost every single day when working in a boiler room, when working in a plant, even if the environment was quote unquote quiet, so that I found that I could put more of my focus into the task at hand, and I was not taking in the environment audibly. Anytime I was in a loud environment and didn't have earplugs, it was 100% overwhelming. I could not think, and putting in earplugs kind of makes you remove yourself from the environment, and you kind of just float around, and you're able to just kind of isolate yourself and then be able to think and be on task at hand and problem solve, which is what matters. If you can't problem solve and you get overwhelmed by the environment, you're probably not going to do well as a service technician. And, as I said earlier, I would always bring in lights. So when you're troubleshooting a problem, you always want to remove variables that make it hard. So people would use one flashlight, and they would try to hold the flashlight while using an electrical meter, to do whatever. bring in stationary lights, bring in a hanging light, bring in a light you can, clip on your chest, or a light, or a headlamp. Bring in something that's not your hands to use the light, so that you can now free up both of your hands. Because you get frustrated, and I would get frustrated if I had to use like a flashlight and point it at something, and then also try to use a multimeter, or try to, turn switches or inspect something, and I didn't have full use of two hands. It's very frustrating. So you want to get comfortable, and part of getting comfortable is wearing hearing protection, reducing that audible input, which allows your brain to now focus more resources on other inputs, such as what you are feeling, your touch sense, and then most important, your eye sense and sight and what you are seeing. It's so important to think clearly, and a lot of problems are hard enough, and any advantage that you can get on a problem to solve it, I would always take. So, gonna wrap it up. Wear your hearing protection for two reasons. Number one is, if you have grandkids someday, you're gonna want to listen to them, even though you may not be able to imagine that. I can't even imagine having grandkids, but nobody ever got old and said, "You know what? I'm really glad I lost my hearing." That's not something that you want to have happen to you. You don't want to be missing out on conversations. You don't want to have to read people's lips. Wear your hearing protection. Not using PPE is not cool. You don't get any cool points for using grinders or a saw without PPE. Always have it on you so that you can pop it on real quick. If you have a hard hat, if anything, clip in your Mickey Mouse ears, which I always called them, but the over-the-ear earplugs on your hard hat, so that you can always flip them down and use them when you need to. Something is better than nothing when you're having hearing protection. But get hearing protection that works for you, that you will wear, that is comfortable. If your company won't buy it for you, buy it yourself. But if you work for a company that cares about you, your company should buy it for you, hearing protection that you like, if it isn't something that they already supply. It's so important to protect your hearing. And then the second part of that is, it will help you think better when you wear hearing protection. You are dimming the audible environment around you. Your brain can now focus more resources on other senses, and it makes you a better problem solver. It is the same concept as when you turn down the radio when you are lost or looking for an address. Same concept applies in the boiler room. If you have any questions or comments on this podcast or any other podcasts, you can contact me at eric.johnson@boilearn.com, ERIC period JOHNSON at BOILEARN.com. If you have any recommendations for a guest or want to be a guest on this podcast, you can email me. If you are on LinkedIn and we're not already connected, or you're not following me, send me a connection request. I am always happy to meet new people, even if it's virtually over LinkedIn. Send a DM. I want to hear from you. This podcast has 10 listeners so far. We're getting there. I am doing this podcast. If you haven't listened to previous episodes, I'm doing this podcast not to get rich and famous. I don't think anybody's getting rich and famous in the boiler industry, but this podcast is for me as much as for you. But if you are a listener and you like this podcast, I would appreciate if you would rate it 5 stars. That helps me. And tell somebody about this podcast. If you don't like it, maybe come back in 50 episodes and give it another try. I will have improved by then, hopefully, and hopefully you like it then. If there's anything else you want to hear, as a topic, email me, please. DM me on LinkedIn, please. If you need CSD1 training, the new Boiler and CSD1 course, that is a on-demand online course. That is a really great course. We're having a lot of success with it. The people that come in, the test scores between the start and the end of the class are amazing on the improvement. CSD1 is so important to know and be knowledgeable with if it applies in your area. It deals with boiler safety. It's not something to sleep on. So if that applies to you, go check it out on boilerin.com. Thank you for listening and stay wild.